Alrighty, it is Omnipod pod change day, and I thought I would finally make a video of myself doing a pod change. I am doing it without a camera person. I've got everything propped up, hopefully correctly, so this is probably going to come in a couple of sections, hopefully merged into one full video of a complete pod change. So first thing I wanted to show was the supplies that I have. Of course, PDM to do the pod change, insulin to fill the pod, alcohol swabs that I use to clean the top of the insulin vial and to clean the site where I'm going to put the pod, dissolve it, which I use for removing an old pod. I started out using Unisolve, and I like it well enough. I like the wipes really well for convenience, but I think dissolve it works better. I think it gets the adhesive off more efficiently with less gunk left behind on my skin. And of course, my pod. I have a friend that painted this one for me, a little R2-D2 pod. This is going on my arm today. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, lucky you. The first shot back is a picture of my belly. So the current pod that I have on is painted, got a Darth Vader sticker on there. I start the pod removal process before I do anything on the PDM. I like to dissolve it to soak in and get good and settled in while I'm doing the whole thing, so that when I'm totally done putting on the new pod, then I can just pull this thing off and it comes off without any trouble at all. So first step is to take the dissolve it. It has a spray. I kind of just put it right up next to the paper tape and just squirt. I start at the top, and of course it runs down. I start at the top and get the paper tape moistened and let some run down behind the pod so that all the paper tape gets saturated with dissolve it. So I don't know if you can see, but it doesn't look white anymore because the paper tape is completely soaked. So that, I'm going to leave it like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my alcohol swabs. And here's my routine. I take one swab, I clean the top of the insulin vial. Then I use that same swab to clean the site where I am going to put on my pod. Sorry, my watch is going crazy here. This time I'm going to do an arm site. I'm going to look super bionic because, as you can see, I've got Dexcom in my forearm. I think I'm going to put my pod here on my upper arm. So I take the swab that I used on the vial and clean. I try to get the whole area so that everything is fully cleansed. Then I take the other alcohol swab, because I always use two, and clean again. I've noticed that my skin is pretty oily, so even when I have just bathed, frequently my alcohol swabs are dirty when I remove it, take it off. I don't know if you can see it. I promise you I have showered recently. It's just that my skin is pretty oily, so I like to use two swabs because I feel like it gets the skin really clean and it gets all the oil off so that I don't have to use any additional adhesive with an Omnipod pod. Okay, so now I'm clean. This is soaking, this is drying. Now it's time to fill the pod. So here I go. I just tape these shut after I paint them. I usually let them dry a day and then I stick them back in the package and tape it shut. So let's see if we can angle this a little better so you can see more what I'm doing. Ooh, this is going to be exciting. Okay, so I've got the PDM. I just take the, all right, I switched angles because that was really bugging me. So the next thing I do is I take the pod out of the package and I put it on. This is just the cover of the package where the pod came in. I set that next to the pod. Set the pod like this. Of course, then I gotta get it turned on. Here I am. Yes, I know. Pod expires today, so let's change it. Oh, you can't see it with that. There we go. Change pod. This will deactivate your current pod. Yes, I hope so. Haven't had the scream of death yet. Knock on wood. Okay. All right, pod deactivated. Would you like to activate a pod? Of course, that's the point. All right, so then I'm gonna pause and set it down because I cannot draw up insulin and put it in the pod and hold the camera all at one time. So hold on a second. All right, here we go. So syringe, put the needle on. I am a pretty new user of Omnipod. I started in April of 2015, and I am told that these all white syringes are the newer version. There used to be one that had a black gasket here, and I hear those were better. I certainly hope so because I find these to be terrible. I have not yet succeeded in getting a syringe that had no bubbles in it, but it doesn't really matter too much for me because I always do the minimum fill. So I fill the pod and I make sure that the syringe has at least 85 units of bubble-free insulin in it, and I just fill the pod until I hear the beeps, and when I hear the beeps, I stop. So inject some air into my vial, turn it upside down, and let it do its thing. And as you can see, it's got a bubble in there already. But we will make it work. If I had to fill the pods completely full, I don't know what I would do. I've actually heard that using regular insulin injection syringes is a lot better. It is able to get the bubbles out a lot better. But since I don't fill it all the way, I don't need that much. I just need 85 units of bubble free, so we do our best here. All right. Okay, so it looks like it's filled to a little over 100. I kind of flick it and look at all these terrible bubbles that I've got. I've still got a whole bunch of bubbles at the top, but it doesn't really matter because I've got it taken care of. So hopefully you've seen this part before on the videos. You put it in a little spot. And I don't know if I can angle this so you can see. Oh, you've got a view of my tissue box. And slowly pressing down on the plunger. Let's start getting this filled. All right, heard those bubbles. So I pull it out, and I've got this much insulin left in my syringe. I just inject that sucker right back into the vial. Ta-da! All right. Cap my needle, and let me pause, and I'll show you the business again. All right, I just finished filling the pod. So I know in the videos that they tell you to put it up like this and let it prime. I read somewhere on a group that to avoid post-pod change highs to flip it over. Now I've never had a post-pod change high, but I've always primed my pod flat side down. I'm not sure if that's just a superstition, but it works for me, so I don't want to mess with it. So here we go. Oh, there we go. This pod, I was kind of hoping that I would end up with this pod for the Star Wars release day, but I kind of am a little fussy about my rotations. I do them in order, and I don't like to change the order, and now is the time to switch to my arm sight, so I'm going with it and just gonna go with the flow and say everybody that I'm into Star Wars a little early. So The Omnipod pod is absolutely perfectly suited for an R2-D2 pod here. Ha! All right, next step, to remove the needle cap. All right, remove the needle cap. The first time I did this, I thought I was gonna break it in two. I did not realize quite how much force you had to put into it. It says, is the cannula sticking out? I've never had that happen. Haven't done it too long, but I hear that that's not super common. Part of my routine is I also take a tissue and I jam it up in that little opening left after the needle cap has come out. It gets the insulin that's kind of like squirted up on the inside of this little clear casing. It doesn't prevent condensation in the window, but I think it helps a little. I don't know. It just bugs me when it's wet in there. So, okay, so is the cannula sticking out? No, I'm gonna hit next on my PDM. And the next step, it says remove adhesive backing. If it's wet or dirty or folded, press discard. If okay, apply to site. Okay, so here we go. Of course it has to go this way. And as you recall, I had my upper arm. So peel it off. Off, and I'm trying to remember where I had it cleaned mostly. Let's go with here. So press it on. I got some skinny arms. The Omnipod adhesive is not fused to the pod all the way around. It's only really fused to the pod at the top and the bottom. So you will see if you're putting it on a narrow place that the pod, I don't know if you can tell, it's not flat against the skin right here. I don't think it matters. I haven't had any trouble with it. Okay, so is the pod's okay? Apply to site. Here we go. Next. Press start to insert cannula and begin basal delivery. I always pinch. I'm pretty skinny. It works for me. I do it. I know a lot of people don't and they don't have any trouble. I haven't had any bent cannulas. Maybe that's luck. I don't know. So I'm going to press start and then I'm going to pinch. I pinch up and I press down on the cannula end. Now you didn't see my face when it injected. I maybe should have moved the camera, but it didn't hurt. Anyways, it's done. Is cannula properly inserted? It sure is. I can see it in there. All right, hold on a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm all done. Oh, I had to stand on my tiptoes. It's all done. Pod's on. Cannula's in. Everything looks a-okay. Now the last step is to peel off the old pod. So, remember, it was right here on my gut. And we'll hope for no gushers so we don't have horror. It's coming off really easily. Ta-da! And that's pretty typical for me. A little bit of a mark, but it's not too bad. It looks like the site didn't bleed or bruise or anything, so just a tiny bit red, but no big deal. All right, so my last step that I do, well, my last two steps, I have been taking advantage of Insulet's pod, it's not recycling, but pod disposal program. So I use a tissue because it's kind of goopy. I don't know why, I always peel the paper off. I don't think you have to, but somehow it just grosses me out to send it in with paper on it. So tear the paper off, put it in my blue bag that I've got in my supply closet, and then I'll take some alcohol on a cotton ball and clean the site that I just removed the pod from, just to make sure that everything's okay, any adhesive left behind is removed and all that jazz. So you have it, Omnipod pod change process. If I was not recording and moving the camera around, I can probably go start to finish in 5 minutes. It doesn't take very long. This was a little longer just trying to explain everything, but it's really a quick and easy process. I know I was terrified when I first started in April of this year, but otherwise now I'm You know, you do something every 3 days for 7 months and you kind of get to be an expert. See you later.